Hey, I'm Red, and today we're gonna go over the simple music theory behind Lil Durk's AHHH and how you can use it to make your own Lil Durk type melodies. I don't want to waste your time, so let's get into it. This track was produced by Southside, 2Dope, Nuki, Giga Sosa, NFE Paris, and TM88. Now, there are 5 main elements that together make this melody sound the way it does, and those are the chords, the melody notes, contour, voice leading, and sound selection. I'll explain to you each of them now, and later I'll show you how you can apply them. The first 2 parts are pretty routine, so if you already know them, you can skip ahead here. Because even if you know this, I guarantee you'll learn something today. The chords on this track are pretty special, and that's because throughout the whole song, there's pretty much only one chord playing over and over again. As you know, in every minor scale, there are 7 triad basic chords, from 1 to 7. The first chord in a minor scale is always minor, and composed of notes on scale degrees 1, 3, and 5, and that is the one used on this track. Now, it is pretty hard to make a full composition out of only one chord and not make it sound boring, but using it smartly can also add a pretty dark feeling to the track. There are a few techniques I found that will help you achieve this. Let me show you. The most important thing after adding your chords is the placement of your melody notes. This is the top melody on AHHH. As you can see, these are the up and down beats on the piano roll. Down beats are the 1 and 3, and up beats are the 2 and 4. The 1 and 3 are the most noticeable and the most important ones. Usually here you will add notes that are the same as the notes from the chords down below. In this case, that would be either 1, 3, or 5. And as you can see, this melody follows that rule for the most part. The next thing I want to show you is the contour of the melody. This basically means the shape of the melody. As you may have heard in the song, this melody is pretty much an ascending progression until it hits the climax right here, and then it goes down. This shape helps bring energy into the progression because it makes the melody feel like it's going somewhere, when in reality it's just looping around at the same chord. Having a simple ascending and descending progression with one clear climax helps make the progression feel like it has different stages instead of being just one chord. One last thing before I show you how to apply all of this: voice leading. Voice leading is basically us trying to make your chord progression sound as smooth as possible. It means basically playing with octaves to achieve less jumpy progressions. In this case, since we're talking about mainly one single note line, I guess calling this counterpoint would be more accurate, but whatever, it's the same idea. These are the notes used in AHHH's melody, and these numbers down here are how far apart the notes are from each other. As you can see, this melody uses notes in pretty much every single beat. That's a lot of notes for a 4-bar loop. And the way you keep your notes making sense and not going all over the place is, in this case, with both a simple contour and a good voice leading. As you can see, most notes are around 1 or 2 diatonic notes apart. And with that in mind, we can now see how this melody was built. This is not simply a bunch of notes on top of one chord. This is a sequence of melodically sound decisions. First, starting with the chordal notes on important places, the most important of them being these ones. Then the up and down contour with one clear climax to make this melody feel like it's going somewhere. And lastly, to help us fill up the rest, we need good voice leading. One last thing I forgot to mention before is that going down at the very end is common in trap beats, as it helps smooth out our way into the first chord in the progression right here. Obviously, these are just the building blocks of the song, but every step requires a lot of creativity from the producer, which is why 2 producers using the same foundation will always end up with different beats. Okay, so now we know how this track was made, but how can you apply all this information to your beats? Well, let me show you. First, let's start with a simple minor chord on a piano VST. To make this a bit less repetitive, I'll bring down this note 1 octave and duplicate the root note. This will help make this feel like 2 chords when it's in reality just 1. Now we can move on to the top melody. For this, we want to keep in mind what we saw in Lil Durk's melody. So I'm going to start on a chordal note, in this case on 1. Now from here, I know that I want the contour of the melody to look somewhat like this, ascending and then descending in the end, with some sort of climax somewhere around the middle. I also know that to follow this path, I want to use the principles of voice leading or counterpoint, I guess, to make the transitions between notes smoother. So with that as a base, I started making a progression. In the end, I found that it felt better to have 2 peaks instead of 1, which I found didn't affect much of the feeling of repetition because I also added this little ascending progression down here that makes the whole thing feel like it's going up. I ended it here on 4 because this note leads nicely to the 5 back here. And now in this shape, with this part going down and this going up, it's gonna feel nice when it goes back to the root note here. These are both our melodies side by side. You can see that the voice leading or counterpoint or whatever looks pretty similar and smooth in both melodies, with most notes being separated by 1 or 2 diatonic notes. Also, that we both started our melodies ascending and descending in the end. Now, these two melodies do have similarities, but where we can take this idea and make it into something unlike the other beat is with our sound selection. For this, I'm going to first add texture, then add a counter melody, then some bass and some drums. So first starting with the texture. Next, I want to add a simple lead. Lil Durk's AHHH uses a vocal sample, I will add a violin in this case. For the violin, I'm again using our contour of up, then down. This time I'm using pretty much only the same notes from our chords. To build up on that violin, since it felt a little thin by itself, I added another string preset here. And some EQ'd vocal presets. Lastly, since at this point I knew what I was going for, I added some hard risers and bass hits. This is what all that sounds together. Now, to turn this into a trap beat, I built the instrumental till it felt like it had nowhere to go, and then I took out the main instruments, leaving only the texture and ambient samples. So the drums could have space along with the vocals. And it's a pretty simple way to make your drums hit and leave space for vocals when your track is too busy. And with that, the beat is finished. If you want to use the melody loop, there's a free download link in the description. Use it however you want, just credit me if you end up using it. If you want to see more music theory videos, there's a bunch already on my channel and more coming very soon. Thank you for the support in this channel so far. It's crazy to me that people actually care about the things I have to teach, so thank you so much. Anyway, here's the final beat. See ya.